Welcome back to the series where we're trying to take Gibraltar and make them the best nation in the world. We're doing this by also managing Europe FC, as you can see right here. Since the start of the save, we've been trying to cement Europe FC, our team, as the best team in Gibraltar. That way we can always go to the European competitions, if it's the Champions League then not Europa League or Conference League, and try to make a difference there. When we make a difference there, our Nation Coefficient goes up, which means more teams from Gibraltar get to play in European competitions. Like I mentioned before, the year is 2035 and we're now in position 15 with Gibraltar. That is because Europe FC has been performing so well in the European competitions that we're now at 35,000 points for the last year. Why is the 15th place so important? That is because the 15th place gives a country right to play in the UEFA Champions League, League Path and the Champions Path, while also giving one spot for the Europa League and two for the Conference League, so nothing really changes there. But the big thing is it gives you right for the Champions League. Playing in the Champions League means more income. If a team from Gibraltar manages to reach the group stages, then they're getting paid an automatic 50 million, which is absolutely insane money. With that money, the teams from Gibraltar can upgrade their facilities, training and youth, and that way we'll get better Gibraltar youngsters in. Hopefully at some point they have enough money to build a good team and they can perform better each year in Europe. For now, however, we need to do our best with Europe FC to always reach the knockout stages in the Champions League and even go further, because we can't afford to lose the 15th spot on the Nation Coefficient. Since we reached the 15th spot last season, it means that this season we don't get access to the 2 Champions League spots yet, but we'll get it in the next season. That is why I'm going to be simming 3 years into the future until 2038. By then we'll look back at the last 3 years, I will continue making signings and I'll take you through what happened in those 3 years and if we could make any progress in the Nation Coefficient or at least retain our 15th spot. Before we start the sim, I wanted to show you how the nation of Gibraltar is looking. We're currently 118th in the world, but I did something to really improve our team. Vincent Agresola and Jaco Solis I have brought in, I have neutralized them. They were Spanish, but they played for us before, which means they've gotten the Gibraltar nationality and they're now playing for the Gibraltar national team. These guys are so good and they will give an instant insane impact onto the team. Anyway, that's it for now. 3 years into the future and I'll be back. I will be seeing you in a blip. Hey, 93.5% of you are not subscribed to my channel yet. Please do consider subscribing, as it really helps me out a ton and it keeps me motivated to make more awesome content. With that out of the way, let's move on to the video. It took a while, but here we are, 3 years into the future in 2038. A lot of things have happened and I'm going to walk you through all the things when it goes from competitions to transfers to other things that have changed around our club and of course the nation of Gibraltar. First things first, let's start off with how we did in the Champions League in those last 3 seasons. As you can see, we're always playing in the qualifiers. As you can see right here, different clubs were playing. Then we're moving to the group stages where we usually win most of our games. We do lose 1 and 2 there against Barcelona and Liverpool in this case. And this year we actually made it pretty far. As you can see, we made it to the final where we lost against Barcelona for 1-3, but I think this was very lucky because look at this home win against Newcastle is just unbelievable, and also beating Chelsea away 3-1 while also drawing them at home. So very impressive. Don't think we were going to do it the next seasons, and I was right. Once again, making some very nice victories over Antwerp, Napoli, Red Bull Salzburg, Lyon and Porto, but eventually getting knocked out by Newcastle because they were just too strong in that season. Then the last season, the season we've just played, we've won actually quite a lot in the group stages and also drew against Liverpool and Newcastle. We then took revenge on Barcelona, beating them in the second leg of the round of 16 3-1 after we tied them 2-2, and then of course Paris Saint-Germain came around. Well, we couldn't really keep them off. They beat us 4-0, and then at home in our tiny stadium of 2,000 people, we actually managed to keep them to a draw, but eventually were knocked out in the Champions League. Then on to the league. As you can see, the Gibraltar Football League goes into a championship group. In the 35-36 season, we finally got 70 points, finishing top. Then once again finishing top the season after, 73 points, and also 75 points in the last season that we've played. And as you can see, we have 5 teams in the Champions League now because we reached that 15th spot on the coefficient list, which means that the 5th seed and the 4th seed are playing in the Conference League, the 3rd seed is playing in the Europa League, and the 1st and 2nd seed are playing in the Champions League, which is actually very good for us. As for the Rock Cup, we've won it once again, not giving up our streak of winning it every year. As for the Super Cup, the Pepe Reyes Cup in Gibraltar, we've actually won it 3 times again, because, well, the league in Gibraltar is not that hard. All of our European victories meant that the Gibraltar Football League is now 20th in the world when it comes to the reputation. However, when we take a look at the Nation Club Coefficient, we see something different, and that is that Gibraltar have climbed to the 13th spot, which is very good to see. For the next season, we have 42,000 points, which means we're going over Czechia, but we're also getting taken over by Switzerland, which means that we'll be staying in that 13th spot, which is very good for us. Remember, our goal is to stay above the 15th spot. This way we keep 2 of our qualification places for the Champions League, and that is the main goal, to keep growing the nation of Gibraltar. When you're above 15th place, you'll get 2 Champions League spots, 1 European spot, and 2 Conference League spots. Of course, to improve the nation of Gibraltar, we're going to need our other teams in the league to perform well in Europe as well. Because all of these nation coefficient points, for now, have come from all the teams that are playing in Europe. However, the other teams haven't really been contributing a lot. And let me just show you a couple of the teams that tried to make it into Europe. As an example, I'll be showing you the second best team in Gibraltar, the Lincoln Red Imps. As you can see, the previous seasons they've all finished in 2nd or 3rd this last season. If we go to their schedule and then we go ahead and we click on just the European competitions, you'll see that in the first season of the sim they didn't make it to the Conference League after winning against Hapoel Jerusalem but then losing against Genk and Fram. The next season they've actually made it to the Champions League playoffs, losing against Molde, Sofia and also Brighton, which, to be fair, Brighton is very hard to go through in the Conference League. And then last season they've lost against Brugge, they've lost against NEC Nijmegen, which meant 3 years in a row they didn't make the European competitions. Let's then also take a look at St. Joseph's FC, who have been finishing 3rd and also in 2nd in the last couple of seasons. Then if we go to their schedule and we go to the season that we started the sim, you'll see that they've lost in the Europa Conference League against Ross County, which is a big shame. Then they've started playing in the Europa League, they've lost and they've lost again, but that meant that they could play in the Conference League, and as you can see they did do pretty okay. 1-1, drew 1, probably didn't make it out of league phase, but at least some coefficient points for the nation of Gibraltar. And then last season they actually made it to the Europa League. Why? Because winning the first leg meant that you go through, so they beat Basel and then they had to play Standard. They didn't make it, but that meant that they could play in the Europa League. However, the Europa League they didn't get a lot of points as they lost almost all of the games except for one against Omonia, which I think are from Cyprus. So in all, the other Gibraltarian teams aren't really contributing a lot. The problem that we had before is that Europe FC didn't have the right reputation. We were slowly but surely building it up, and we're currently actually the 8th best team in Europe over the past 5 seasons. Also, when we take a look at the competitions, you'll see that the Gibraltar Football League is also improving a lot. Players want to join because of the reputation of a club and the league. If the league is low, then players don't want to join, but also if the club has low reputation, players don't want to join. Over the past 3 seasons, our reputation has grown so much that we're finally able to attract some very good players, and also the worth of our players is rising a lot since the reputation of the league is tied with the worth of a player. Let me show you what I mean. In 2033-34, we couldn't really spend a lot of money on players. Why? Most good players didn't want to join us, so we had to buy players like Robin Gosens. But also, players who are really good for us, we couldn't sell for a lot of worth. For example, Alex Balikswa, we were playing in Europe at this moment, keep in mind, is a very good player, and only selling him for 1.7 million is absolute bollocks. But unfortunately, we couldn't really do anything about it since our reputation was very low. As our reputation grew, we were able to attract better players, we were able to spend more money on good players and also get more money for some players. As you can see, Robin Gosens left for 19.5 million, but we were also able to buy the likes of Leonardo Neves and Nuno Valerio, who are very good players, and 11.7 million was a lot of money. In this season, it still didn't really work out for us, but as we progress through the seasons, you'll see a lot more changes. To give you an instant example, we were able to buy Dylan Monroe from Bayern München, and he actually wanted to join us because our reputation of the club and league was high enough. But also, on the other hand, we started selling players with a lot more value. Gerardo van der Velde left for almost 20 million, and also Nuno Valerio left for another 13.2 million, which meant that we started buying players for a good price and we could also start selling them for a good price. Then last season was the season that we really could start getting a lot more money for our players. First off, we were able to buy a lot of good players for a very expensive fees, but also these players were insanely good. So we were able to buy players because our reputation was growing a lot more. And on the other hand, we were also able to get a lot more money for the players that we currently have. As you can see, we had a record sale for Anthony Manresa to Real Madrid for 41.5 million. But next to that, also Ruben Aiskar, not a very good player but an okay player, left the club for 50 million, when before I think the max we could have gotten for him would have been 5 million, and 5 million meant just a little bit of profit. So you really see that by upgrading the reputation of the league and the club, you're able to ask a lot more money for your players and you're able to get a lot more good deals, because if you buy a player for 24 million, his value just doesn't suddenly drop to 10 million, but it keeps that value or even goes up. To give you a feel of how good the team is, I'm just going to walk through some of the players in here. You'll see that they're very good, that they're really world class, but we could just use some upgrades along the team. We do have plenty of money, and every year we're spending a lot of money on new players, and we're of course also getting a lot of money in, since as you can see we're barely spending any wages since our wages are very low, and also we're getting a lot of money in from the European competitions and of course the Champions League every year. While taking a look at the finances, you'll see 32 million in the transfer budget, 90 million in the overall balance, and also the wages are very low. We barely have any debt or loans, so we're a very healthy club, and every year we can spend almost all of our transfer budget to bring in new players and to really try to start winning the Champions League in the coming seasons. Another little change is we now have 6 affiliates. They all give us scouting knowledge and they help us to get more talented youngsters into our youth ranks. To add to that, we also have very good facilities which I've built up over the years, and we're also upgrading our current capacity in the Victoria Stadium. It's currently 2200 and it's being upgraded to 3300. Not a lot, but it's a very big upgrade for us. That does mean that we're currently playing in the Europa Sports Park, which has a capacity of 1000, but hey, it's only a year, and after that we can move back to the Victoria Stadium to play all of our games, and hopefully playing our games there will increase the revenue we get from the home games with a lot. So what's next? How can we make sure that the Gibraltar nation is going to be the best in the world? Well, every year I'm going to spend around 10 to 20 million to buy bad players from the second and third placed clubs, and hopefully that money will help them to buy even better players and also to accelerate their growth in the Gibraltarian League, but also in Europe. Hopefully the money that I quote unquote give to these clubs will help them to upgrade their training and youth facilities so that talented youngsters come through the ranks, and also the national team of Gibraltar will be upgraded in the future. To end this episode off, I want to show you how we did with the nation of Gibraltar in the last 3 seasons. First, we started off with an okay finish in the Europa Championship groups, barely losing to Germany and to Ireland, which isn't bad to be fair. The next year, we actually managed to top the group in the Europa League Division C group, beating Belarus, Kosovo and Slovakia, which is very important and impressive. Also, if we take a look at how good Slovakia actually is. Then in 2037, we actually were in a World Cup qualifier group, which we could have performed better. Unfortunately, we lost against Denmark and Turkey, which meant we weren't going to the World Cup, but we were very close. Not sure if I can still see this. Yes, I can. If we won those 2 games, we would have had enough points to actually qualify for the World Cup, and that would have been amazing. But unfortunately, we just barely didn't manage to qualify. This year, we didn't lose yet, 4 friendlies and 3 wins, 1 draw. We've been also drawn in the European League Division B with Germany, Finland and Slovenia. I don't think we'll demote. I also think we'll go up because we aren't able to beat Germany, but we're definitely better than Finland and Slovenia, so let's hope for the best. To end the episode off, Gibraltar are in the 96th position on the world ranking, which is absolutely insane. They have already made up 80 spots in 10 years, and to keep this going we really need to keep upgrading the teams in the Gibraltarian Football League. And that is going to be the goal for the next years. We're going to try to spend as much money as we can afford into the other teams to help grow the nation of Gibraltar. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe down below if you want to see more, and I hope to see you in the next one.